Wellness Wednesday. This is Dr. Sergey Shealy-Sorin, and of course, I've got my wonderful co-hosts, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
And Dr. Shealy, one and only. Yeah. Well, today's topic is gonna be a continuation or a rollover, I should say, from information that we started talking about last week, previous week, and that was about setting intention and how to follow them through. Well, folks, it's 2023. We're here. Have you followed through on your New Year's resolutions and wishes and desires so far? If you have, fantastic. Do you have a plan to keep on going? Do you have a good, clear plan, one that's going to work? Are you seeing results already, or do you plan to see results soon? Or what are your expectations? Lots of different questions. So that's why we're here, especially with, and I'm going to say, Rachel, it's probably going to be the star of the show today.
I have a lot of thoughts on the particular fitness topic, but
so let's get in and let's actually dig in and just get into the details of what it takes to get this done for 2023. How do you make this a great year? Fitness, wellness, mindfulness.
Okay, and so really, I think today's focus is because wellness, fitness, and wellness are all obviously they all fit together, and that kind of was a weird play on words, but not really. Anyway,
holistic, everything comes together.
Yeah, but so often that means exercise. And so I think it's really important that we give people because there's a lot of questions about nutrition and exercise, and what can you do if you can't exercise, and how do you improve your overall fitness through mostly exercise in this case, because that's what we're talking about. But of course, diet is hugely important to that too. So one of the big things, because we have a lot of patients that when they come to us, they're not in a place where they can exercise yet. They're overcoming an illness, or their body is very busy fighting an illness. So they can't do the things that would help improve circulation. And the reason I keep bringing up circulation is you can eat all the nutrients in the world, but if your body can't have the blood deliver it to the cells, then they're not as helpful. So for people that can't exercise, I know one of the things Dr. Shealy recommends quite a bit is the
Vibe machine. For $250, you can buy one, Confidence, on the internet, and I've used this kind of Vibe machine as my exercise program since 1994.
Yeah, it's a very cool little gadget. And how often, not how often, but how long do you use it for each session?
And you just vibrate, and you can use your arms. Interestingly, musicians or conductors live longer than any other profession. Just the movement of arms is excellent.
Yeah, it gets all that blood flowing.
Yes.
Yeah, of the heart and all of that. Mm-hmm. So when you get on it each day, you go like 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
Well, I do a minimum of 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
Now, I do another exercise gadget, which I've done since 2000, and you lie on the floor and your body moves physically itself side to side.
I believe it's called the Chi machine.
Is that the way you put your
feet
in?
So that's basically what it is. It's a lymph support, and it's a gentle type of an exercise. It also helps to loosen the hips and.
Can I also just say, because I worked with a coworker who didn't believe in any of this stuff. She got very sick, and then she ended up going finally like more of a functional, holistic route, and came back and was like, "Oh, that matters and that works." So sorry, go ahead and continue. I just thought people should know that.
That's a very classic thing. Usually, typically, unfortunately, we get folks a lot who have failed everything else. What doesn't make sense to me is the system is not really designed to get you to health. So of course you're going to fail if you keep staying in the system long enough. Because even if you're under the best of care in the conventional, you're dealing with drugs, surgery, and then psychiatry. And psychiatry or mental health is all about what? Drugs.
Mhm.
There's no more lobotomies now these days, but there's chemical lobotomies. I mean,
Yeah.
And and we should talk about exercise and the endorphins and all the feel good that happens from that. And a lot of people that struggle with those things are not getting in the consistent exercise. And I know sometimes that's what came first, the chicken or the egg, but just something to think about. So we know the VibraPlate you really like, the Chi machine. You guys also
the Chi machine is great, and these are gentle, simple things.
yes, yeah, they're not too crazy. Mhm. Walking is good. Some of our patients are not even to the walking stage yet. Not everybody. Everyone's at different levels. So some other things that I was thinking that are really nice for helping circulation are saunas. You don't even have to move. You can go sit in it and let your body try to cool you down. So get all that blood flowing. And the flip side of that is if you're needing to push all that blood deep into your internal organs, then you can do cold therapy. Don't do that one without some guidance because it can get a little extreme. But
back in former Soviet Russia,
yeah,
it's and I still do this. It's a modified practice because I don't have the same opportunity as
Sure.
snow up.
Right, you can't go lay in the snow.
You can. I mean, you don't have like feet
Yeah.
2-3 feet of snow, so you just jump in. But the cold hot. In other
Yes,
words, same
yes.
principle. So I do it in the shower, but
Okay, and that's something people can do. Most
Yeah.
people have access to a shower, so they can do the hot cold therapy. So
and that's
push the blood down, bring the blood up. Push the blood down, bring the blood up.
and this is also actually what this is. What this does, it's a wonderful exercise. I need to do this a little bit more consistent. I mean, it's not every single day but it should be. And what it is basically autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. And so what you're doing is you're giving your body. It's almost like a stretch for the nervous system. In other words, it's a stretch for you go through the whole range, and then you have you're in a better place. Circulation, blood flow, hormones.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of that.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And tomorrow I'm ordering my gardening tools and seeds and bulbs, and at least 3 days a week I work in the garden.
That is wonderful exercise and so therapeutic on being outside, being in the earth, like
Doing something productive.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and what could be more important than growing your own food? I mean,
And
at the end of the day.
God, absolutely. Yeah. Gardening, being outside, taking care of the weeds. But by the way, most of the weeds are not really weeds. There's medicinal plants that we
That
just.
is so true. There are
yeah.
so many things we get dandelions.
The amazing
One of the
dandelion.
most amazing plants,
Yes.
healthy, nutritious plants on the planet,
Yes.
and we
yes.
put
yes.
toxic fertilizer or weed killer all over our grass to get rid of them.
That's our society.
Yeah.
That's epitome of our society. That's exactly what's happening. So the same thing that's happening with the dandelion is what's happening with values, morals, and the fabric of humanity. But that's okay. Let's go to some more pleasant things here.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So we've kind of talked about some things if you can't exercise, but some ways
Yes.
to still get the circulation moving. And then of course there are some dietary things too. If you've ever, and I'm not telling anybody to do this, but if you've ever heard of a niacin flush, you know this because you've had so much niacin that it's opened everything up. Also, they say omega-3 fatty acids, so the DHA and the EPA are also very good for circulation. So those are some nutritional things you could look at. But yeah, so those are some things if you're not ready to exercise. What about our people that are like, I'm ready and I'm exercising, right? So then we get all kinds of other questions. So one of those is hydration, and people want to know how much water should I be drinking? Do you guys have? I have some thoughts,
Actually,
but I don't.
I'm going to demonstrate. Deb, can you pass me that water bottle right there? So this, I brought this specifically. I'm going to enjoy some hydration during the show while Rachel is doing all the work here, of course. But this says 8 a.m. on to 8 p.m. But the short of it, doesn't matter what the writing is. 64 ounces. Sometimes one of these a day, sometimes 1.5. Some days when I'm running around emergency room and I don't have time to go to the bathroom. It's a terrible day because you don't drink, you don't do the essentials, and then you feel terrible at the end of the day. So you don't do this too often. But
Yeah. So let's kind of talk. Okay. So one thing is, and I'm really glad you said you're like 64 or more or less, depending, right? So a lot of times people get caught up in that number. 64 ounces is a pretty arbitrary number. Standard rule of thumb is we say half of your weight in pounds in ounces. So if you're 140 pounds, you drink 70 ounces of water. However, there are a lot of pieces to think about with that, because have you eaten a bunch of broth that day? That counts as a liquid, right? So you may not need as much. Or have you been outside working in the garden all afternoon and it's hot and it's humid and you've been sweating? Then you need more water. And then also something that a lot of people don't, this is what I've learned from running marathons and working with endurance athletes. If you ever hear somebody say, I keep drinking and drinking and drinking water and I'm still thirsty, a lot of times they're not getting their electrolytes.
Exactly.
So they're created some kind of imbalance.
Sodium, potassium, magnesium. Oh God, all of the above. I mean, a lot more than that.
Yeah. And there's a cool thing you can do. I'm a salty sweater. I know I'm a salty sweater. You can go actually have a test done on that where they can measure your sodium output. They stimulate, I don't know, they put something on there, stimulate it, catch the fluids, and then they put it in through a little salt analyzer. However, if you don't have, I don't think we have access to that here locally. There's another really great way. When you go work out, like if you're wearing a biking helmet or you've got clothes, if they're real salty when you get done, you need more sodium than most people.
Yep. The more you get rid of, the more you need to replace.
Yeah. And so, like I've worked with some athletes where they need about 1,200 milligrams. Some only need 1,000. Everybody's a little different. So it's really important to kind of keep an eye on what you need as far as not just sodium, but the other electrolytes too.
I want to jump in with a few things about water. Water is essential.
Yes.
Water, we are, let's say, 60 to 70% water in an ideal situation. Too much, not good. Water retention. Too little, not good. Dehydration. Please.
But I want to mention city water is poison.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yes. Yeah,
It's
let's talk about that.
fluoridated. Horrible, 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 horrible thing. Fluoride.
Not just fluoride. Chlorine, a lot of things.
Yes.
But I mean,
but
you see a lot of people with thyroid problems,
right,
and they're probably drinking.
It destroys the pineal gland,
also that,
and the thyroid gland, and body as a whole.
Basically, the entire endocrine system and beyond, literally. And then there's other questions about water, and this is let's talk about some simple, basic, beautiful things that we can all do, and it really is simple. Now, a lot of people go with just a certain like high pH water, in other words, alkaline water, and there's a lot of money being spent on the machines and otherwise. Does it help? Well, we live in an acidic environment. The food is primarily acidic. Carbs are mostly acidic. Junk is acidifying. Even protein is acidifying. That's why it's important to get the vegetables in, because that provides the alkaline balance. That's why most of it should be veggies. So that's, again, and to answer the question, if you do most of your diet in veggies, good quality veggies, various types, then you will be okay. You don't need extra water that is pH balanced.
And also let's just talk about, if you want to find alkaline water in nature, you just find some spring-fed water, because that's how it's picked up the minerals and things. So,
and that's exactly it. But to actually alkalinize the water, and again to the higher levels, I don't know if I would personally pay for that directly. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to say it's harmful, but
the benefit.
Mm-hmm. And it's an individual basis. Let's put it that way. Some people might be good with it. Not everybody's going to need that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's fair. And if people feel like it's working for them.
Yes. But I've had some people who tell me, "Hey, I live in a very acidic environment, and this is saving my behind." You know what? Okay, no worries. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's water, and
and so let's go back to the water thing, because the fluoride, right?
And I want to remind you that 90% of groundwater has Roundup in it.
Yeah. It's well, not to mention all the
Stuff,
meds
yeah.
for people are, it's crazy.
Wash off on Prozac and all the other things. Right. We used to have a running joke in the emergency room, still do, that maybe there should be Prozac or Valium in the water supply. Well, guess what, folks? There is. We're there. But I did want to also mention a few other things, and I'll say this again, but I just wanted to again back by popular demand. So we had this pretty incredible sale or opportunity to get the PEMF at 15% off, which is $240 off, and the offer came with 3 courses. The biogenics course for self-regulation, that's basically your discovery from the 70s. PhD project for how do you regulate your brain, limbic system, and the nervous system. And then there's over 68 various exercises on the whole theory of the concept of how to do it, guidance. Another course is youthful longevity. In other words, living to youthful 100 plus. A lot of things we don't have time to talk about in detail that we put in there, and Dr. Shealy's lifetime work, but also personal intuition, getting to know and trust yourself, and guidance, and clearing this beautiful thing here, this beautiful control center. And plus a few things that are essentials, B complex, essentials. Everyone's got to have that. Vitamin C, youth formula with MSM raises DHEA. Magnesium raises DHEA, another essential element missing in most people, especially with anybody with any stress or illness. And then one other favorite of mine is actually Air Bliss. And Air Bliss it's a bliss oil. It's a combination of essential oils applied to acupuncture points. 12 points, 30 seconds, no needles, and neurotensin and oxytocin. It's literally the feel good, hey, I'm okay type of hormone. So all of that's basically over $2,000 worth of good stuff, and it was going to go away at New Year's, and so the Grinch came in and said, "Okay, no more." But I had so many requests and so many people asking to. Okay, I'm still thinking about it. I need to talk to my husband, my wife. I want to see what so we are. I literally begged and pleaded, and basically, so we're going to extend this for until the end of the week. So if you're going to really want to take care of yourself, take care of your health, and commit to yourself, there's no better way other than PEMF is a cellular support, but it's also a commitment to yourself as well. If you do something healthy, you start out with a good plan, mental, emotional, physical, biological support, the supplements. You'll do yourself a great favor, and that's a start. It's not the end, but it's a start, and we'll keep it running until the end of the week. But getting back into some other things now. We talk about illness, and we talk about health. We talk about people who cannot exercise, but then there's also people who exercise a lot.
Okay,
Athletes. I'm talking about marathon runners. I'm talking about
yeah, and just for the record, I don't ever recommend running a marathon for your health. just putting that out there. That's really not the best way to treat your body. But
explain, please. Yeah.
So, and especially it's overdoing it. And actually, what I have found is, and I actually personally went through this myself, but when you over exercise and you create that whole cortisol imbalance. I was the heaviest I've ever been, besides being pregnant, when I trained for my first marathon. And actually this is really good because this segues into kind of where our goal should go. But it was mostly midsection fat. And that, again, kind of tells us that's a stress response. Mm-hmm. I had to go back, and I've run a lot of marathons since then. I don't really run them anymore. And again, not for my health. But what I learned is there is a very specific zone you need to keep your heart in if you're going to be out doing things for a long time. It shouldn't be intense. So if you're going to be running for 2 to 3 hours, when I had to go back and relearn how to train, I was running so slow that one day one of my coworkers saw past me, and we said hi. It was early in the morning. I had my dogs, and he came back later and he said, "Hey, I saw you walking your dogs this morning." And I was like, "I was running." But so it's really important to know if you're going to be doing something for extreme amounts of time to have a coach, have somebody that can walk you through the proper steps. Because once I learned those things, and not to stress my body out like that, everything improved so much. But that's a whole nother science of figuring out your max heart rate, figuring out what zone is good for you, because the standard 235 minus your age formula is nonsense. It doesn't work. If that were the case, I should be dead right now based on that heart rate. So, but yeah, so I feel like I kind of got sidetracked. What was the original question?
Yes. So we're talking about athletes.
Okay.
Now we're talking about people who are, let's say, they're not limited by anything specific, and they just really want to hit the year running and just really do a great job, get fit, and some of it can be a very high end people, high end folks, specific, professional athletes, and I know several folks who are professional athletes, boxers and all sorts of sports, and very intense, very dedicated.
Okay, so
I
let's
mean,
talk
just
about how do we support that.
yeah. So how do you support somebody who's actually on the other spectrum?
Okay, so a lot of that would depend on goals, right? A boxer is going to have very different goals than a marathon runner.
Boom.
So nutritionally, it really comes down to the individual, their goals. But I can tell you, everybody needs macro micronutrients. It just depends on the ratio, right? So thing to think about is exercise in and of itself actually breaks us down. That's not where we're getting better. The part where we're getting better is when we go back, we rest, and we repair, right? So how does the body do that? Well, it needs nutrients in order to do that. So one thing a lot of people get very concerned about is protein intake. Depending on goals, and of course, this is assuming just healthy general adult, usually they say 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight to 1.2 grams. Again, if you're trying to build muscle, you're going to want to be on that higher end. If you're just maintaining, probably a little bit on the lower end. So that's something to really think about and look at. But, the other thing is you need to make sure you're getting, we're creating inflammation, right? So the vitamin C, vitamin E,
vitamin D.
Yeah, I had a note about vitamin D. It's that, so low levels of vitamin D have been shown to actually decrease athletic performance. So that's...
It's actually low vitamin D is associated with every known medical chronic condition for the most part.
And I'm really glad you said that, because also like a lot of athletes are out going hard and stress fractures are a thing.
I've had just a couple of those when I was training for the half marathon. So it's and this is
you were probably overdoing it though.
Well, the first time that I went for a run, I decided to see if I can do the entire thing distance in once, and then I decided to train from there. So I took my dog. I almost killed my dog. It was middle of the winter, and I literally we finished the 13 miles. I finished the 13 miles.
So you would have ran a half marathon before you ran a half marathon? Okay,
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that I developed. Yes, I did. I had a stress fracture at that time. My dog couldn't walk for.
You know what? Okay. So let's talk about that too, because some people want to jump in and they want to go hard, and they're not giving their body the time for all the supporting structure to catch up with, like, say, muscle growth, right? You've got ligaments and tendons and all those things that you need to let them have some time to physically adapt to the changes that you're making. So this is where we go back to the whole slower is better. Take your time. Don't get injured. So
don't run a half marathon before you train for it.
Right.
Don't forget to breathe.
Breathe good. Absolutely. Yeah, that's super important too. Yeah, for sure. But so one thing I was going to talk about when I was talking about midsection, because everyone goes in with different goals for exercising, right? But one of the things that we should all strive to do is have a healthy waist circumference. And part of that goes back to adipose tissue, adipocytes, and then what they do, right? So if you've got any kind of pudge around your waist, I mean, I can look at somebody, and if it's large, so female over 35 inches, male over 40 inches, you can look at them and know that not only they're having like, just regular probably blood sugar issues down the road, but those play into your sex hormones too. So
and it's absolutely fascinating. Dad actually did a lot of work in this back in the 70s and 80s. You gave me a little manuscript of something that we're going to look into at some point, and it's got a lot of stuff on the hormones and how the whole thing happens. So stress, cortisol, not just cortisol, there's the entire cascade, but most people are aware of the word cortisol. I'm just going to go with that. And that in itself interacts with DHEA, the anti-stress wellness hormones, and that eventually gets annihilated. So chronic stress, acute stress, stage 1, cortisol goes up, DHEA goes up to meet it, you're okay. In other words, it's an acute challenge, you learn, you grow, you build more muscle. Let's put it this way. Chronic starts to get into cortisol still high, DHEA is no longer keeping up, boom, you're starting to burn out, you're starting to go into a bad place, decompensation. And then there's folks that come to our clinic. I see a lot of that here, but you don't have to be in that stage to come to see us, because we can catch it early, and the earlier you catch it, the better it is. And that's stage 3, general adaptation syndrome or disadaptation. In other words, you don't even make the cortisol. You can't even react. You can't even address the emergency. The body is just simply saying, hey, I got nothing. I'm not getting up. Yes, there's a car coming at me, but I'm not moving, I mean, that's basically it. I mean, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And by that time, basically, you got depression, you got anxiety, you got neurochemical composite, issues, you've got endocrine issues. Testosterone for men is usually down in the dumpsters. Sex function, just fatigue, complete lack of satisfaction in life, or somewhere there. For women, similar things, not enjoying life, not enjoying relationships, not enjoying, life. Just everything going down, normal aging. Folks, that's not normal aging.
We really need to start dispelling that. Somebody told me the other day that it's pretty much anyone over 40 has plantar fasciitis. I know a lot of people over 40 that never had that, but
right.
And
90 years without it too.
Oh, so 90 years and you haven't had it. Good job. I mean, that's a pretty good sign of some inflammation going on in the body. And so, so we really need to set some new precedents. And I mean, aging happens, but it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. And
And the other thing, I'm going to jump in, and we'll get back to the topic, because this is a little bit of a side note. But everything in the body tells us something. There's no such thing as, oh, this sucks, or this is terrible, or so on and so forth. If you have plantar fasciitis, and let's say you're 40-something, you're starting to run, you have you develop that pain, you got several options. You can say, okay, this is terrible. I have the condition is what it is. I'm not going to run, period. You just drop back and you're done. Number 2 option is, and the better option is, look at it as a sign. Look at it as, okay, inflammation. What am I inflamed with? How's my nutrition? How's my GI? How's my basics? Maybe I'm going to step back from the exercise, perhaps a little bit on that end, and then just do some more basics in terms of nutrition, lifestyle, clean up other things, and then just in the meantime do what I can. Maybe stationary bike, maybe something else. Any thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. I do want to say sometimes plantar fasciitis can just be a very simple overuse issue, but if that is the case, then it usually resolves itself very quickly.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't linger if you take all the right precautions, and but for the most part, it's an inflammation issue.
Mm-hmm. And sleep.
Yes.
Now that's a big one. That's a huge one.
Especially. Yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of that. Mm-hmm.
You don't need to sleep more than 8 hours a night.
Well, people who sleep more than 8 hours a day and still wake up without feeling refreshed, that's poor quality sleep. Folks, that's literally, you walk into a bank with a big bag of money and it's all pennies. I mean, it's better to have $100 bill. I mean, just saying. Yeah. So it's But see, let's talk about one more thing here, and then of course we can, second half of the hour is open to questions and
Okay, sure.
about fitness, about everything. I know you got a lot more notes here.
Yeah, but I mean, you're good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the body mass index
Oh, yes.
versus body composition, which is a very different concept, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's talk about so body mass index, the BMI, is the standard that most places use, and by and large, it's not a bad tool. However, in my case, when you start working with athletes, especially ones that are really working on putting on muscle, then body mass index is no longer
Relevant.
valid. Yeah. Because you'll look like you're completely off the charts, unhealthy, but it's because for your height and your weight, you have a lot of muscle mass. So there's that. And then body composition, which is what we should be more concerned about. That's your actual lean body mass to your fat body mass. But what I really want people to know is that physical appearance does not always mean health, because you can go look at the influencers on Instagram or whatever social media, and if the woman's got six-pack abs and is just completely ripped, there's also a really good chance, not everyone, but there's also a very good chance she's not having a period and her hormones are completely whacked.
Mm-hmm.
So just remember, image isn't everything. So like I said, that doesn't always equal health. And it goes the other way too. Yeah.
And it does. And it's interesting because I've had several clients. One of them specifically comes to mind. If you look at the outside, typical huge belly, typical, very large, just body, just BMI, well, obesity range.
Yeah.
But somehow, no chronic illnesses, no diabetes, no hypertension, no cholesterol. I mean, just surprisingly, no illness, really. And in addition to that, one of the strongest people, including gets on a treadmill and just goes and goes and goes and goes. I mean, so go figure. I mean, but again, but that's not typical, is it?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the exception, but there's always an outlier in every study, right?
So the thing is, don't judge the book by the cover. But if you open the book and it's still not reading right, well, that's
yeah. And I just say that because I don't want people to, if you set your goal as a female to be like, I want to look like her, and then you realize you pull the curtain back and you're like, that's not a good idea. That's not maybe where you should be going. Maybe worry about looking like you, the healthiest you. So.
And the other thing too is about it's a balance of health versus fitness goals, because you could be healthy but not necessarily very fit, but you could still be generally healthy. And a lot of clients feel that if they're not going to do it right, so to speak, if they're not going to go all the way to, then what's the point? But every little bit helps. If you take somebody who's never done anything in terms of exercise, and they just start walking, just a couple of steps, that's better than nothing, folks. That's better than nothing.
Halitosis is better than no breath at all.
But it's better to not to have halitosis.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. One of the other things people often ask is nutrient timing if they're exercising or working on their fitness. And a lot of people, I think they overthink it. So unless you are training for a bodybuilding event or a strongman contest, or you have but if you're just wanting to be generally healthy, don't stress about it too much. It does seem to be beneficial for many people to do their cardio fasted if weight loss is your goal. So, wake up in the morning, do your cardio, then eat. That's fine. Some people just find they do better if they eat first, and that's okay too. I do like to see people after they exercise try to get in a little bit of nutrition, especially if it's liquid, just because you can, it can get through your system faster and it's easy. Yeah.
What do you? Let's get into a little more specific on that.
Okay.
Let's say I have a workout session.
Okay.
What would you recommend I do, either ideally before or after, time wise, and what would be specific?
Well, so we need to know what's your workout.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It depends on that, right?
Yeah. So if you're gonna get up and you're gonna go run,
Mhm.
just go run. unless you're someone that has blood sugar issues or something. If you're going to get up and you're going to lift some heavy weights,
Mhm.
I feel like most people do that better when they're fueled. So you might want to, and this is something people, I don't know why they don't think it's a weird thing. But anyway, sometimes when I say, oh, you can do a smoothie or a shake beforehand and after, and they're like, two, I'm like, or just split the one you made in half. So that's also an option.
Let's dispel some myths because,
Okay.
what is the timing before and after?
Well, and this comes down to personal digestion. So you have to play
Right.
around with it a little bit too to see kind of, can, like me, like I don't worry so much about timing before. After, I like to try to do it immediately because I just feel better the rest of the day if I can replenish as soon as I do that. But some people can wait 20, 30 minutes and do that, and that's okay too. And some people, just again, depending on what the specific goal is, if you want to wait, that's fine. I will say, interesting fact, if you work out really hard for hours and then you wait and you don't eat for hours, that is what sumo wrestlers do.
Oh.
So, if that's your goal, that's fine. But if you're going to work out really hard for hours at a time, I'm not talking 30 minutes, an hour. I'm talking 2-3 hours. You're going to go hard and then you're going to wait and then you're going to a ton. For some reason, that seems to work for the sumo wrestlers. But again, everybody's different.
But that's a very different specific sport and very specific body type.
And that exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think, let's see. Okay. We're starting to have questions. Wonderful. So until further notice, when we are able to take telephone questions, I'm just going to have to look at the screen here for a sec. Question: can we talk about women menopause and hot flashes? Basically, that is a complicated issue, and I literally took several conferences just within the past year, including at A4M, which is one of the major anti-aging, uh, non-conventional sources for education. Plus, I've taken other hormone courses, and it has to do with lots of different factors, whether pre, peri, or postmenopausal, and then there, of course, there is all sorts of issues, and whether it's how bad the symptoms are, all the other underlying and contributing conditions. There's metabolic stuff that goes with it, and insulin, blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol. There's sex hormones that are basically connected to all of that. Basically, it's the whole big bag on and brain chemicals, mood, function, chronic illness, fatigue, energy. I mean, you're talking about the whole thing. I think we're gonna have to do an entire show on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be a good topic.
Fascinating. This is great. Okay, question number 2: what can I do if I gained weight from steroids? Is there a way to detox from prednisone? Dad, do you want to jump in? I know you
Don't take steroids, period.
Well, sometimes you have to.
Might be too late for that. So now what?
So in the emergency room, let's say I see a severe allergic reaction. Somebody who's basically airways closing up. I'm going to give steroids. So I mean, as much as I don't want to do that, and in the long term, it's not a favorite drug, but I do use it. DHEA, same dose as the prednisone that you take. In other words, if you're going to take 40 milligrams of prednisone for a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, take 40 milligrams of DHEA. Now, how do you get? Let's say after the fact, you've had steroids, you're kind of feeling down. So this is where the DHEA package comes in, and I would recommend that for at least a couple of months and lifelong, literally. And the DHEA, there's 4 things that raise DHEA naturally, after the fact. The first one is the youth formula. magnesium lotion. That's a second one. Fire Bliss. That's another, similar to Air Bliss, what I mentioned, but it's a DHEA 60% as well, and it does lots of other things. Stabilizes the system for the thyroid and otherwise. But then there is another one, which is again, it's a hormone, progesterone. It's called eugesterone, same as progesterone, and it's not the therapeutic dose for hormone replacement, but it can certainly support the body in many different ways, for sleep, for stress, increase DHEA. And that's something that many people do who are not on the bioidentical hormones or otherwise. So to answer that question, I would approach it that way, and that package is on our website. If you're realholisticdoc.com, DHEA package, one for men, one for women, slightly different, but they do the job. Okay, wow, lots of questions. Perimenopause, hot flashes and less sleep. The key there is progesterone, but again, that has to be very carefully orchestrated and tested, and I'd like to do the entire show on that. Can you talk about fluid retention with no cause? I will respectfully disagree. Anytime anything is happening in the body, there is a cause. It just hasn't been discovered.
I think, yeah. Well, maybe should have been unknown cause.
Undetermined
Yeah,
cause. Sure. But if it's happening, there is a cause. There's a cause and effect for everything. That's why holistic is different than conventional, because in conventional you run the standard tests, which are good for certain things, but you run out of options. Okay, what do you normally hear then? This is what I've been trained, and this is what I've heard as a patient. You're okay. No, I'm not okay. In other words, if I'm not feeling good, I'm not okay. So for a doctor to tell me I'm okay when I'm not okay, again, that's not my reality. The fact is they just didn't know what to do next. So I'm okay from their perspective, not from mine. Second thing is there's a lot of testing and things that are not conventional, functional testing. And this is what I'm getting very heavily into now, because I'm seeing a lot more patients with that. So it's a lot of people needing support with the hormones, which is a big thing in that. Aldosterone, which is that's hormonal, neuroendocrine. And you got renal, you got corticosteroids, glucosteroids. In other words, just all sorts of signaling molecules. And again, is the body regulated or dysregulated? If it's dysregulated, everything is off. Get it back into the holistic, functional. That's what it's all about. But it sounds like there's going to be a really good show on that. A lot of interest in.
So the question with the fluid retention is it'd be really hard for you to answer that, because you need to do some diagnostic testing to figure out.
Exactly.
The cause.
The cause. And this is where I would check a whole bunch of stuff. Again, this is and non-conventional. Of course, we want to see what was done conventionally, make sure there's no red flags. I still look at everything from an emergency room kind of head, so to speak. Is there an emergency? If I see an emergency, if I see somebody who looks like they're having an appendix in my clinic, they're not going to stay in my clinic for more than 2 seconds. I mean, they're getting in an ambulance and they're getting to the hospital. But that's the best of both worlds, Okay, and so the short of it, if you're in a place where no cause or unknown, you're not looking in the right places. That's the short of that. Question number 5: mild case of shingles. I'm taking antiviral. Any other suggestions? Immune system. Shingles is because of the immune system. Mild, moderate, severe. Again, it's depends on how bad the immune system is suppressed. Intravenous vitamin C, intravenous ozone. Those are boosters. Again, I can go into a long discussion on that.
And also, let's not forget that sugar. If you're
inflammatory.
Vitamin C, yeah, exactly.
Yes,
it's gonna suppress your immune system as well.
Yes. Well, the sugar, the crap,
the
lack of exercise, lack of sleep, all that stuff. So it's and the best approach in that case, always you start with the basics: lifestyle, nutrition, activity, stress, sleep. Stress, by the way, is not that simple. Stress is your limbic system: limbic, hippocampus, hypothalamus. I mean, it's how many people have heard the expression or have been told by the doctors, the system, it's all in your head, or it's psychosomatic. That's one of the worst words in the world in the human history, isn't it? Psychosomatic, which means I have no idea what's going on in your brain, but you're falling apart, and I cannot fix you, so I'm not gonna. You're not my problem. So
That reminds me of my major medical school gaffe. On the final exam, I was asked to list 5 requirements
characteristics.
for a good psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I wrote the as hell 5 times.
Well,
And I've not changed my mind a great deal. I think 1 or 2% of psychiatrists are saying.
and I know some real good ones, by the way. So don't get me wrong. We're not saying bad things about people, but as a field, oh God, yeah, absolutely. And the holistic approach, of course, is you don't cut off the head separately from the body, put it in a jar, and say, okay, you're going to address this, and then we'll see how it affects everything else. That's not how that works. Spirit, soul, mind, body, and you have to approach the whole person from the origin is God doesn't make junk. We're wonderful, amazing, beautiful beings. And I know I'm kind of like on my soapbox here, but I just want to say, folks, if you're not taking care of yourself, take care of yourself. Your body is a temple. You are a temple. This physical body is a vehicle. I take care of it. I do my best. I do better to shine the light into the world. That's what it's all about for me. If I'm not feeling well, guess what? I'm not going to be able to do much. And that same goes for everybody else. So, please, I've been talking a lot.
Oh no, I think you had another question. So
of course, yes. Wow, we got a lot of questions today. This is
curious
wonderful.
audience.
Curious audience. So shingles, immune system, and stress management, and of course, antiviral may help if you catch it early, but that wouldn't be my mainstay on that. Question again. Best advice for post-hormonal migraines. Ooh, that's another good one. I love it. All right, I'm going to defer to my first question. It is actually, and this is where progesterone and estrogen play a huge role, especially the combination. And especially most people are estrogen predominant, so progesterone is the thing that will stabilize that, including sleep and a few other functions.
Food that pulls it out of your excess estrogen out of your body. That's also important too.
Damn, yeah. Exactly. And most people don't know about that. But again, that's
eat
why
your broccoli
And riboflavin.
Yeah, B vitamin.
But but again, I don't want to just leave it at that and say this is our medical advice. It's not a medical advice per se. I mean, this is just the things to consider. But you really need to work with with not a conventional. You need to work with a really good, proper, functional, and preferably holistic specialist who's going to understand the whole body and the system within the systems. Because we're not that simple. It's not just the liver here and heart here. Everything is interconnected. Yes. Okay. Any idea on the cause of growth of autoimmune and hormone issues? GMA, genetically modified foods, genetically modified humans, genetically modified everything. And just for the record, and again, I'm going to get myself into a little bit of hot trouble here, but I'm going to stop it right there. I'm going to limit the damage. Be careful. Yeah, we're talking about the immune system. I'm just going to put it this way and read between the lines. We are holistic, so what we propose, and our proponent is, don't put external stuff into your system. Focus on your innate, normal, beautiful, God-given immunity, and strengthen that, get your system in the right place, and stay away from as much external stuff as you can.
And there is a strong genetic predisposition.
But there's also at the same time epigenetics. You can turn on and
gene expression and turn off gene
and
expression.
Suppress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you can have 2 identical siblings, and there's actually been studies and research on that.
Right.
Actually, so not autoimmune, but if we were to go to diabetes and the PEMF Indian tribe, the PEMF Indian tribe in Mexico has almost no, and they're genetically, they're the same. The one in Arizona, the one in Mexico. PEMF Indian, and I hope I'm saying that word right, PEMF, but they have like almost no diabetes. the Pima Indians of Arizona have one of the highest rates in the world.
Turned on the genes.
Yeah, it's how you. The ones in Arizona eat a standard American diet.
Said standard.
The ones in Mexico grow their own food. They don't have electricity, so they're walking back and forth. So that's such a great example because you can see an entire population of people with the same genetics and how environment affects those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. By the way, love to have your questions. Feel free to put the questions in the comments, please, until we get the capacity to take them live. And we're working on that. Matt is really promising me that. I mean, he's really close, I think. This is one way to to get your questions and to get back to you on that. So, and I do want to jump in with a couple of things before the program is going, and it's going pretty fast. There is indeed we're expanding. We're keeping the Black Friday sale on PEMF 15% off with the 3 courses that I mentioned: personal intuition, which is wonderful for guidance, biogenics, self-regulation, autonomic nervous system resetting, but also youthful longevity and a few essential supplements that everyone should have and get started, not just for 1 month, but for life. But at the very least, you'll get the essentials and youth formula, which is B complex, vitamin C, DHEA support, magnesium, air bliss. The bottom line is the package is still alive until the end of the week. So that's and I hope a lot of people take advantage of that. We had I had a lot of people calling me and say, "Are you shutting it down?" It's like, yeah, we have to. I mean, you can run a special. That is what I'm told. The whole year. So obviously, there's times that it will be possible. But I did say, because a lot of people are wanting to decide finances and so on and so forth, talk to family. So there's an opportunity to get that before the end of the week. And it's the more important thing here is the commitment to your health and wellness. So if you're going to get yourself, if you're going to buy something, whether it be a toy of some sort, I would say engage in your health as a commitment. And stay with it, because it's not just about making New Year's commitments, it's about keeping it.
Don't forget, if you live in Springfield, you know there's one excellent health food store, Sprague Valley Service. I don't need to say anything else. You walk in the door, someone comes out to help you find tens of thousands of things. Of our goodies,
essentials,
bliss,
youth formula,
oils,
bliss, magnesium
lotion, and it's the place to go if you want to serve it. And for, I think, over 25 years, I've taken concentrated
cherry juice, isn't it?
Yeah, cherry juice.
Yeah.
Tart cherry juice. And it's available at Coloma Frozen Foods in Springfield.
Wonderful. These are some of the basics, and and again, taking care of yourself, your health, getting the right nutrients in, it's essential. Absolutely essential. We got more questions. Okay. Wow, I think this show is going to continue for a little while. Okay, and we'll answer as many of it as possible. Okay. I have a spot on my skin. I do natural. Follow you guys. PEMF. Any suggestions? Skin is interesting. Skin can be anything from very benign to malignant. This is where a dermatologist is helpful. Now, unless of course you trust in a provider or a doc that's going to take care of you, and whether or not it needs a biopsy, some usually doesn't. But there's old age spots. There's all sorts of things. There's angiomas. There's things that you don't have to be concerned about. But the biggest thing is check it out and get it out of your worry. Get it out of your head. Stress is gonna hurt you a lot more than anything else. But if something needs to be addressed, do it now. Okay. what is our opinion on keto diet? Keto-based diet. In other words, South Beach. There is actually what were some of the others that are
I mean,
keto-based? There's
Atkins.
lots. Atkins. There's
Yeah,
lots.
Atkins. Yeah, sorry, Atkins.
Yeah.
So the thing about the keto diet, if it's done right and you're doing it because you are like a type 2 diabetic or your metabolism is kind of going that direction, it can be wonderful. Again, if it's done right. So that means lots and lots of veggies and some meat. But what most people do is they figure out they can eat bacon.
Oh God. Bacon is great.
And cheese. And that's and listen, I can tell you, I know some people that have put themselves in some pretty bad situations doing that. So keto can be good if it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the really nice thing about this is if you do keto right and then you add in the exercise and then you get to a place where you are just healthy and normal, then you can eat the carbs again.
Because
Good
the
healthy
metabolism
carbs.
are corrected.
Right, yes.
You don't have that
exactly.
metabolic
Yeah,
syndrome
yeah.
that's screwing everything over. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So keto can be very good if you're working on correcting blood sugar. But again, it needs to be done right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like everything in life. Do it right or don't do it at all. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe I'm being too extreme, but maybe halitosis is better than no breath at all. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions here, of course. Let me jump in with a related concept because I do want to say it. Intermittent fasting. One of my favorite topics. And yes, I love it, but it's got to be done right as well.
And for the right crowd of
for the
people.
right crowd. If you're a diabetic whose sugar goes real high, real low, it may stabilize, it may help, but there's a danger period if you're dropping too much. You gotta, again, there's what's your take on those?
Well, I've seen the other end of the spectrum with very, very healthy, fit people. Women, I'm talking about women in particular that insist on doing it, and it set them up. It's really messed up their hormones. So intermittent fasting is wonderful for people that have a lot of excess intracellular glucose. It's really good for them because it gives those cells time to empty out, right? But if you're already a very fit, low body fat female, you should not be doing this.
What about males?
For some reason, and I think it's probably because we make babies and you guys to do fine with it and don't seem health level, either fit or overweight seems to be not a problem, and that's what the research says.
Gotcha. By the way, I don't think most men could handle the process, even though they had physical capacity.
Making a baby, yes, probably good. We didn't leave that to them.
Thank God. On my end at least.
Yeah.
So. And there's different types of diets, different ways to do it. You can actually, one of the easiest ways that is actually fairly easy is just compress your meals within a certain time period. Don't graze the whole day. Let's say lunch at 12, 6 p.m. dinner. Boom. In other words, you break breakfast. Breaking the fast is at noon as opposed to in the morning. So that's one way to go about it. And again, so you can shorten it, you can lengthen it, but some people have one meal and they're doing great. I know one guy who's in exceptionally great shape. Everything's worked out perfect, and just one meal a day for 20 years. God bless. Now, could I do that with my line of work, emergency room and otherwise? I tried, but I don't think it's working for me as well.
And and also you need to think about, do you want to do that? Because a lot of our social life is around you're doing that, and awesome for that guy. I love it. But I don't want to miss out on social events with my family and my friends. I'm going to be the person sitting there like not enjoying. So that's something to think about too. Like what works for you.
Any other closing, so to speak, thoughts? Because we're almost at the end of the hour. So Dad, or especially Dr. Shealy, excuse me. Well, Dad as well, technically. What post-holiday New Year's resolutions, following up, keeping it up, what would you say to folks who are now entering this year and want to do right?
Decide to be healthy. Make a decision. All of my life, I have been healthy. I have had major accidents, major surgeries and always come out on top. So as long as you are happy and not anxious, you will be healthy.
Mm.
And it's attitude decides your health.
Or in other words, like how I say it, make sure the control center is under your control.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not externally manipulated somehow. Right. Rachel, I know you gotta. You could probably talk for days. But what final kind of like summary advice would you give to the folks if
Oh
this
my
was a panel? Let's
gosh.
say. I know you got a lot.
Yeah, no, now I'm like, oh gosh, I don't
Mm.
so much, I don't know what to say. So definitely the whole, you have the choice, and you also have the choice when things don't go well to either be upset with yourself or just start again and give yourself some grace, because that is so huge on like the health journey. People, like you talked about, expect perfection. It's not always going to be perfect. And that's okay. Consistency is more important than perfection.
Yes.
So basically, a fast rabbit going in everywhere in each direction
There's a
is,
saying
is,
that-
is not gonna be as good as a slow
Yeah,
turtle going
exactly.
steadily. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was thinking of a different saying, but it's a similar idea.
Mm.
But it's a man who chases two rabbits, catches none. But that's a little bit different
Mm.
thing.
Similar
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
So my if I would say my words of wisdom, and I hope to take it for myself, I really do, because to say it's being a human, it's giving advice is easy, following it that's follow up, that's work. So Rachel, I'm saying this out loud,
Okay.
and as a coach, you're
See
gonna
you in the morning.
Hey, that's right, that's
Okay.
right. We 7:30, isn't it?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is I'm making a commitment. And there's going to be times and days, and I've had several terrible weeks. This is a message for everyone out there. You're going to have zigzags. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks. You're going to jump on and real strong, and then something's going to hit you really hard. Personal tragedy, family tragedy, maybe death in the family, maybe house fire. Again, I'm not wishing any of these things to anyone on anybody, but stuff happens, and stuff when it happens, you have to decide. As soon as you recover, and again, you have to balance yourself and recover. As soon as you recover, what is that zag teaching us? Is it a lesson? Is it something that's going to make me stronger, better, and more able to deal with the challenges later on? In other words, turning every challenge into opportunity. One of the exercises in biogenics.
Detach.
Yep, and then detach and do the right thing. Take care of yourself. Or in other words, the alternative is not the good one. So I'm gonna say it. So in other words, when you're in the game and you're there to win, there's gonna be good days, there's gonna be bad days, but make sure you aim. Make sure you look for. You have your eyes, your heart, your mind, everything that makes you you. Why are you doing something? What are you doing? Do you have a plan? Do you have resources? Do you need to connect with somebody here, for example, like Rachel or myself, or Dr. Shealy is retired. He's doing research now, but so he's kind of free from responsibility on that end. But yeah, it's do you want to connect with somebody who's going to help you holistically? If you don't know what you're doing, if you know what you're doing, and it's just a question of doing it, get to it and see and look at the results. Bottom line is, I have a lot of people saying to me, I've been doing everything right and nothing is working. Well, if you're doing everything right, then something should be working. That's
I can't tell you how many times actually probably 99% of the time people come to me and say, I eat healthy. And then I say, let's look at what you're eating. And
show me a diary. Show me.
and it
Yeah.
turns out, once they have to really be honest with themselves, it turns out that it's not that healthy. And actually, we had someone today, and she has made a total turnaround, and it's having because she did tell me when we first met, I eat pretty healthy. And then we had to clean a lot of things up, but it's amazing results.
And I bet you the inflammation and all the other factors are going down.
Yep.
And,
we can see all the physical manifestation of the changes.
Every organ system, brain, heart, just absolutely. All right, let me see if there's any more Okay, I believe we are at the end of the journey here. Next week, we're going to have another wonderful show, and we may even have a guest, possibly. So, without further ado, Dr. Shealy, will you be back on the show? If you, unless of course
if I'm
you,
allowed.
always welcome and always wonderful. Uh, unless there's any situations, I'd like you to. I believe we're going to be talking to Mister, or in my eyes, he's a doctor extraordinaire, Ryan Welton, physical
Yes,
therapy
yes.
specialist and discoverer of an amazing system where he'll literally touch your elbow and you'll have relief in your foot, or vice versa. Incredible, very intuitive, and it started with working with Dr. Shealy, so that's next week. Don't miss it. Wealth of information. Ryan is a blast. I mean, so look forward to having you on board, and come and join us again. Wellness Wednesdays. I know we can talk a lot, but your time is valuable, so God bless. See you next week.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And let's keep it happy.